kind of one of those things when you watch it, you start instantly feeling better about being you, right? Let's see if I can get this thing to go beyond. There we go. This is kind of what we're up against, and we talked a little bit about some statistics earlier, but basically we've got about 70 million people worldwide who suffer. It's about 25 times more people that are HIV positive. So it's the new international epidemic. Most shocking statistic I have ever found was actually one of the London pediatric research study results that 1 in 10 parents reported in this study that they would abort a child if they felt it had the genetic tendency to be overweight. That's the kind of statistic that just makes me go, whoa. Stop everything right here. We have taken a wrong turn, and we need to do some recalculation. You know, we, in this culture, just here in this room, 9 out of 10 of us, and even though this says, our statistics say women, we don't have any statistics for men. You know, just think about how you would feel if you were a young man who suffered from anorexia and bulimia. How comfortable would you feel asking for help, telling somebody about it? You know, most of the time I do these programs, the first people to come up to me after the program to talk to me and say thank you are usually male. And in image-sensitive sports, in modeling and acting, I mean, you know, be a cyclist, runner, jockeys, it's just as prevalent. We just don't hear about it as much. 60% of our culture will suffer from some form of significant disordered eating in their lifetime. And that's just the ones we know about. Now, there is a biological component, and I'll use the Fijian island as an example. Why didn't everybody on that island who saw Melrose Place develop disordered eating, or even worse, an eating disorder? There is a biological component. Research seems to indicate that it's about half and half biology and environment. So, for instance, if I had grown up on the island of Fiji, had never seen Melrose Place, my best friend thought big is beautiful, probably would never have been triggered into developing an eating disorder, even though my relatives in the States on my dad's side of the family suffer from severe anorexia and bulimia. So it's really about half and half, and we're really not sure how that plays out. We know there's some chromosomal linkages that have been established for both anorexia and bulimia. We know that people that have restrictive or overeating type of eating disorder process taste sensation and hunger and fullness cues differently than people that don't carry the genes for eating disorders. But we're still learning. There's a lot to learn in this field. It's very important to understand, especially for those of you who have younger brothers and sisters, or maybe have children, or are hoping to have children someday, or have friends that may suffer, that there is a personality profile that lends itself to the development of an eating disorder. There's a lot going on in these people emotionally. They tend to be very intelligent, high achievers, kind of perfectionistic, maybe a little bit rigid in their thinking, compassionate and caring, but kind of a poor emotional sense of self, a set of emotional coping skills when life gets tough. And there's a volume of research and whole books written about this subject, and I encourage you to, I've got a lot of resources on my website. You can go and take a look and see some books I recommend, and more websites with more data on this issue. You know, we just talked about the environment in which an eating disorder can spring to life. Has a lot to do with the culture we live in, which is why it's such an issue today, and it wasn't in the 1950s. Now, there are 4 key things that contribute to recovery from an eating disorder. And this is really where my work comes in. I've written a book called Beating Anna, How to Outsmart Your Eating Disorder and Take Your Life Back. And it's kind of a how-to manual. How did I heal? How have I helped other people to unlock their own potential to heal? What are some common things that you can do to implement these 4 strategies? The first one is to find something worth fighting for. And this is where it really comes down to, is it an eating disorder? Is it substance abuse? Is it relationships? Is it gambling? Is it shoplifting? Is it, you know, whatever it is that you struggle with? John Nash is my hero. He suffered from paranoid schizophrenia for 30 years. Those of you who have seen the movie A Beautiful Mind, where Russell Crowe plays Dr. Nash, will understand a little bit better. The rest of you, I highly encourage you to go, because actually the book I'm working on now is about his life and how it parallels my own recovery from my eating disorder. Even though our diagnoses were different, the 4 things that we did were the same. In my case, the eating disorder cost me my music. I wasn't able to play, wasn't able to sing. I had to withdraw from school. I lost my life. I lost my dreams. It took me years and years and years to get it back, and that's just because I was one of the lucky ones. For John Nash, it was his math, the significant contributions he was able to make in his family, his relationships with his wife and his son. And those were fighting battle cry words, like, I want my life back, I want my music back, I want to be able to do math again. That's something powerful enough to wake up every morning and say, yes, I am willing to do the hard work of recovery, because this is what I'm fighting for and it's worth it. The second thing he had to do is realize that his mind had kind of turned from his ally into his enemy. You know, all of a sudden, here's this brilliant person who has created a Nobel Prize-winning discovery, and he's thinking that aliens are communicating to him through the front page of the New York Times, telling him he has to crack the code embedded in the newsprint in order to save the world from destruction. You know, and later after he recovered, his colleagues asked him, he said, how can you, with such a beautiful mind, how can you think that aliens were talking to you, communicating secret messages? And he said, because those ideas came to me the same way that my other great ideas came to me, through my mind. For me, my mind would come up to me and it would tap me on the shoulder, and some of you have heard this, you were in the class earlier, but it would tap me on the shoulder. It would say, hey, we need to go purge lunch now. You need to go throw up. And I would say, oh, really? Really? And it would say, huh? Mm-hmm, let's go. And I would say, well, don't you also want to be a famous singer? And my mind would say, well, yes, that's true. No, come on. And I would say, well, but didn't your music producer just say that if you continue to purge, then he won't be able to work with you because it makes your voice so raspy and hoarse and he can't record you? So do you want to purge or do you want to be a famous singer? Because unfortunately, I'm so sorry, but you can't do both. And my mind would think about it for a few minutes, and then it would say, yeah, I think I want to be a famous singer, so yeah, let's not purge. Or my mind would come to me and it would tap me on the shoulder and it would say, hey, we need to go purge now. And I would say, I'm really sorry. I hate to say this, but you can't purge, but you can do any one of these other 5 things. Call a friend, go for a walk, make some tea, watch a movie, go for a jog, whatever you want. Or you can do all 5. And my brain would say, really? All 5? And it would get busy figuring out what order it wanted to do them in. Our minds are not as smart as we think they are. In the mind, you can in the movie The Beautiful Mind, you can see this when Dr. Nash says to his wife, he says, I know I can beat this. And how do I know? Because the little girl, the vision I've been seeing for years and years and years, she never gets any older. So she can't be real. Start feeding your mind accurate information. It thrives on knowledge. And it will turn back into your ally. The third thing that Dr. Nash realized that I also realized is it takes a tremendous amount of energy to lead a double life. To get really good at maintaining an addictive behavior like an eating disorder and get really good at putting that brave face up and wearing that mask. And I, at some point, just like Dr. Nash, realized, you know, what would happen if I took all of that misdirected potential that I had been pouring into getting better at my eating disorder, and I turned it around and I started using it to get better. It would be like taking a loaded cannon and turning and swinging it around and pointing it at my eating disorder and firing. And the fourth thing that you see him do in the movie that I also did is I met my mentor, just like he started to work, and his wife